I mean, let's all be honest. And
Dude, if I was, I would be so happy. Not because I want to be egotistical or anything, just because it would be nice to have that level of confidence. You know what it'd be like to not be like, oh God, how much am I sucking today? You know?
so
But instead to simply be capable.
how awesome it would be not to be human, is what you're telling me.
Exactly. God, I hate being human. It sucks so badly.
That is the human
It
condition.
is. It sucks being human. Guys, I've got a great idea. Let's get some cybernetic implants. Let's kill ourselves and replace ourselves with a duplicate of ourselves. It's an AI.
And
And
then maybe what we could do is have really good graphics as long as it takes 30 seconds for it to beat in.
exactly.
On some computers.
Perfect. I like it.
And then
And it has to have like awful like these filters where occasionally just parts of the world just are like really 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 low res, like 480p low res.
then when you get in a car and it's day, it's like looking into the sun.
Yep. I was so one time in the tank. Have you done the tank missions?
Um, maybe not because it doesn't sound.
Sorry for spoiling that. There's a tank mission. There's actually two in the whole
Oh, you
game.
get in the tank? Oh no,
Um,
that's the girl, the chick you
yes,
get.
yes, yes.
Okay.
And yeah, so when I don't know if this hit you, but when I was in there, I literally could not see with the default view because the way they were doing the lighting effects. And when I say it was just pure white, absolute blindness, and I'm just like, okay, that's cool. I'll just yeah, sure. I don't know what I just hit, but I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, it's whatever.
And in the dialogue, aren't they called death traps anyway? It's like now
Yes.
you can understand why they're.
Yeah, there you go. It all makes sense. It's all in canon. It's all in canon. Um, I didn't see a tweet. Did you tweet out?
I did, in fact, tweet it out.
I
I
must have
said,
missed it.
hold on. I said, come hang out for our Star Trek Enterprise Star Trek right there. Yeah, should have said rewrite, but who cares? Nobody listens or
We're
does.
definitely not talking about Cyberpunk though, Falkenstein. Don't worry about it.
Nobody
Nobody
likes.
likes that. Nobody watches that. There it is. I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of retweet that really quick.
Aren't you going live too, though?
I am already live, ladies and gentlemen. We've been live for 2 minutes and 19 seconds. I am, as ever and always, the Boar Runner. Right up top here, we have Lore Reloaded. He's awesome as usual. And today we're covering more of Enterprise, Season 1, Episode... Depends on how you count it. And we're going to be doing some restructure here. We're going to be doing restructure really quick. Thank you very much, Jonathan Freeloader, for that sub. Always appreciate those. If you know where you want to put that, please let me know. I'll jot it down. Otherwise, we're going to jump into this. I've got Super Metroid on my left, apparently. I forget that Zoom always flips me. So that you guys don't get bored just watching me. I know you guys hate just looking at me. You like looking at him, but not at me. Although, you're this way on your screen. There you go.
Everybody wins. By the way, guys, we know that a lot of you guys, if you're watching this, usually you come for. This is why you're here. You already know what's going on. But for those who straggle in or may be interested in or watching this live stream for the first time, you probably want to go back to the beginning, but whatever. Let me give you a couple of miscellaneous changes. So we are rewriting Star Trek, the entirety of it. We're Babylon 5ing it. We're going to have it be cohesive with continuity and make sense because it is possible to do that regardless of what Star Trek Discovery fans will tell you. There are a couple of changes that we've done to the universe, though, and so we want to go through that real quick, just so that you're not confused if this is your first time. So transporters, unlike the OG, they require both an entrance and an exit point. You have to have two transporter pads for it to work the way it was designed. Anytime you don't do that, anytime you decide to transport from one side to the other and there's not a transporter pad it's going to, there's a good 70 to 80% chance that you are going to end up dead. Transporter enhancers, like we see in TNG, as well as additional pieces of equipment that makes transporting easy, will lower that number. So you'll go to a 50-50 chance if you do it with the enhancers. But for it to work 100%, it does indeed have to have it on both sides. Universal translators don't instantly know what's going on. They do take time. They're pre-programmed with known races, but if they come on someone that they don't know, it'll take time for them to figure it out. The Prime Directive is actually pragmatic. They're not going to sit back and watch a planet die just to do it, as you do when you are
evil.
One Picard. Yeah, when you're evil Picard.
Just saying. That's evil. I got nothing else for that.
But it is based on a case-by-case situation, and generally is used to make if a society, an entire civilization is going to die, then there is a bigger chance you will step in. Now, again, case by case, if there's a nuclear war, whose side you choose, blah, 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 there is nuance to it. Not everything is black and white, my good friends. Replicators, some things you can't really replicate, just can't be done. In fact, replicators don't replicate food. You have to bring food. There are food storages and things like that, which when that comes into play, we will talk about it. And the replicators are also like mini little nano robots, such that will start to design and build the stuff for you. Holodecks have the same power as the ship Screw Off Voyager. Klingon honor is based on undiscovered country, where you can be honorable. Doesn't matter if you're a warrior or the janitor. If you do it in the name of the Empire and you do the best job and no one else is better, then you have brought honor to you and your house. Consoles don't explode. The actual areas do. There aren't rocks under consoles. Time travel doesn't exist in the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th century. Unfortunately, my good friends, you cannot get a Klingon bird of prey and go back in time, nor can you get in a Constitution class ship and go back just because you want to, because that was a thing in the original series. They had broke the time travel code. It could be done. It was all there to be seen. And transporters, the last thing with the transporters, did we decide if Enterprise is going to have
We haven't 100% decided yet. We have decided that if they're going to be present in the Enterprise show, it's going to be super like rare and super high tech, like, oh my god, these are incredible. But I don't think we decided if they're going to be in at all.
Right. One thing, so the whole Xindi Time War arc is gone. To better explain that, yes, probably, but not because of that. To better explain that, there are species that have time travel. You even have 31st century Federation with time travel. It's just we're not going to give the 22nd, 23rd, or 24th century the ability to time travel because it's just inconsistent and it makes no sense.
And most important, and I agree with that completely. By the way, I just want to jump in really quick. So I just covered, for those of you not aware, I've been covering my Enterprise stuff. I'm just finished season 2 of Enterprise last week. And you're probably thinking, what? You're still on TNG? Yeah, that's because that stuff's going live in over a year. But from my perspective, I just finished the episode Judgment, which is a late season 2 episode, and has the incredible J.G. Hertzler, who is probably my favorite Klingon actor overall, right up there with Michael Dorn and O'Daniels, or whatever you say his name. O'Reilly. But Hertzler does a great job, and he has this wonderful monologue where he talks about his father, who is a biologist, and his mother, who's a librarian. And they were honorable. Like, he goes into this thing about how they claimed honor, and it was just, yes! And you reminded me of that when you were just mentioning the undiscovered country thing. Because his point, and I think we should codify this, is that the Klingon Empire had that, and then kind of went to hell. And then, it was trying to recover from that, and we can discuss that later. I just wanted to mention it because it's funny that you just mentioned it. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah, we can talk about it. That could be really a good idea. We'll discuss it. Can you beam from no pad to pad, or do you always have to stand on a pad? No, you can transport. Transporting is still possible, but if you transport somebody and they don't have a pad, then you are... Well, if they're transporting from the pad, they know they got an 80% chance of life. If you decide to transport them and there's not a pad on the other side, you're taking their life into your own hands. So
it's okay. You might die.
They could die, or they could not. So it's one of those things where it's like, do we really want to kill this person? Like, are they going to die anyway? It would be...
Yeah, if you're on an exploding ship and that's it, then yeah, beam off. At least that way you have... It's like jumping out of a burning building at that point. You might break your legs and bones and ribs on the way down, but you're guaranteed to die if you stay in the burning building, right?
Right. And so, and it can... There's a lot you can do with that, because again, it really... Like if there's... a hostage situation, well, now we're not going to beam them because they're going to die.
Because we want them to live.
Right.
The goal is for them to survive. I do also have to say, and this is something Reloaded pointed out, so I give him full credit on this. Allowing this gives us so many more additional potential situations for usage of this as a narrative tool. We've already done one in Wrath of Khan, where Khan uses the transporter as a, I'll beam them down.
Right. Well, what he says is he's like, "Oh, you want this person back? Yeah, I'll return him," and then just beams him down.
And just beams him over, and it's just and just there's a lot more potential rather than simply we have a transporter that can beam anywhere except when the plot says it can't. I mean, don't mistake me. I love Star Trek, but that is how it's been portrayed. Let's just be honest with about it.
The problem with TNG is when they started it, and I think it probably was Gene just wanting to everything be great, but it's like, all right, there's all this great technology, and it just works, and it's magical, and everything's great about it. Which in later episodes they then had to think, how do we break this technology? So instead of doing that, we just give it limitations to begin with, so that the story can actually be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, I was actually talking like we do some prep work for this and before we get on, and it's just interesting. I don't understand how all these things continue to happen if they really sit down and focus on shows like they say they do, because it's just sitting down and just working it out. So I don't know. I'm sure there's more to it.
I mean, we do know that there's at least some business side of it. I hesitate to use the word executive, but definitely business. Like, I've gotten the vibe many times, especially in interviews, where it's just like, oh, I got to turn in 2 scripts by the end of the week. Right. And we've all been there, right? We know what that's like. And so they're just like, here. And I could name several episodes of Trek which clearly have the vibe to them from the writers.
Right. Well, and as you've explained in some of yours, that's just the way it is. Things fall through, stuff happens, and it's a business. You got only so long before you can get it out, right?
Yep.
So you got to do what you got to do. All right, so we're gonna get into this. So one of the things we did decide to do is we are going to first close this because I'm about to say something. I got 2 little girls.
Cover your ears, guys. This is the PG-13 part of the stream right
exactly.
Here. He's going to start stripping right now. This is actually a porn movie.
Yeah,
sorry.
It is. Speaking of things not appropriate for YouTube, I'm not a huge fan of rape and victim blaming. Never have been. Never will be. So for that reason alone, we are going to be removing the Star Trek Enterprise episode. I guess I should ask you if I could have phrased it that way, but here we are. What the hell was the name of it?
I don't remember. Unfortunate
Unexpected.
Son? No, Unexpected. That's it. Unexpected.
Unfortunate. Okay.
You can understand why I remember it that way. But so, yeah, to mention something here. This is actually...
before I phrased it
okay.
like that. But
there's
still.
part of the spiel. I'm actually putting this in the intro video, by the way. What part of the spiel here is how we're approaching this and kind of the rules we've set for ourselves. So my approach, and I don't want to sound antagonistic about this because I like Low Reloaded's idea. I just think it's a separate idea. So the overall approach here is what I like to call the holodeck, right? We just have the ability to write this however we want. There's no executive. There's no management. There's no we're making this in the 60s. There's no tech limitations. There's no people limitations. There's no will people accept this. There's no will it sell. The point here is to make this a creative work, right? Now, Low Reloaded also posited the idea of doing basically a separate thing of having all those limitations in place, which can be a very creative and interesting thing, too. It's a separate challenge, hence the point. The reason I mentioned that, too, though, is, what are the limits, then? Well, we can't add anything. We can't add a 5th season to Enterprise, for example. We also cannot take away anything, so we can't just remove Season 4 of Enterprise, to use another example, or Season 7 of TNG. However, we are allowing ourselves a little bit of leeway on certain things. Para exemple, one of the things we're doing is when we come across an episode like, say, Threshold, or a movie like Star Trek V, and we've already done this with Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, is we basically give ourselves a free pass to just replace that with a blank sheet of paper and replace it wholesale, right? To just make something new in its place. Now, what does this have to do with Unexpected? Guess what we did with that?
Yeah.
We torpedoed it entirely, and we're replacing it with something else entirely. So that's the idea there. Now, you got a donation there.
I did, and I kind of want to address it. I was champing at the bit, good friend.
Sorry.
And no, it's good. That's more important than what I was going to say. Cedric Taylor, thanks so much for supporting the channel. Let's break that down for a second. The Prime Directive was in place to keep us from playing God with those who are pre-warp or taking sides in a civil conflict Yes, it's been broke, but you do play a price. Well, so there's a couple of things. First off, you even correct yourself within the statement itself. No, it's not just pre-warp civilizations. It is all civilizations. And in fact, we get involved in pre-warp civilizations if the other side does first, because that's the way the Starfleet rolls. As we know in the original series, when the Klingons started arming one side of a pre-warp civilization, then the Federation went ahead and did it too, because why wouldn't you do that? Of course, the Klingon Civil War was something that we just said we weren't going to get in the, or I'm not a part of Starfleet, doesn't exist. Starfleet didn't get in the middle of, because of it being a civil war and the Prime Directive. Additionally, we see that with the Cardassians and the Bajorans when the Cardassians were creating a civil war. And that doesn't, the last two instances don't really make a lot of sense, especially since Picard did get involved in the Civil War. It's just he didn't directly, but I guess it's okay as long as you don't directly do it. That interpretation, I like. Cedric, you're good people. You and me, you've been here for a long time, but that interpretation is a horrific interpretation of the way the Prime Directive should be done. Again, it originally, in the original series, was more nuanced. You do pay a price. You could, in fact, lose your command for doing it, but ultimately it is meant to safeguard civilizations, and civilizations that are destroyed through no fault of their own aren't safeguarded. So you can do things in which to help them and ensure that they continue on, but it is nuanced. You don't always do it, but it is something that you generally lean towards.
If I could jump in here too, one of the things I noticed, because I recently finished covering TOS, from my perspective, those videos haven't gone live yet, is that when they very, very, very first mention the Prime Directive, they don't call it that. They call it the Prime Directive of Non-Interference. And the way it's phrased is that it is... How do I phrase it? Spock says it, and he says it like it's rule one of the document of non-interference, right? So it's not a prime directive; it's just the first thing that they do with regards to how they operate with not interfering with other cultures. Which I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but that one relatively small change just kind of changes everything from how I approach that. You know, as opposed to being the guiding principle of the entire Federation that we must do regardless of all anything, because screw thinking, it instead becomes a good guideline for how we interact specifically with other cultures, blah, 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 etc.
All right. Let's replace Unexpected with an episode after, thanks for supporting the channel, after Regeneration, which is Regeneration from the Micro Collective's perspective. Well, we actually are going to be replacing it. We're replacing it with Horizon. We'll get into that in a second. The only other thing, I just like the challenge being there. It's not something that I'm necessarily hanging my hat on, as I said, by the way. Runner, I don't want you to think we're not doing what we agreed to beforehand. I just think we can still do it. I think we've done it up till now when it comes to the way we've been writing. Don't you? Or not really?
I suppose we have. It's just, I will freely admit this, I haven't been thinking it because those are different questions, right? Like I said, it's an interesting challenge. It's just not one I'm currently thinking about, right?
Sure, and you shouldn't. I'll be there to be the...
That's what you're here for, man. If it wasn't for you, I'd be lost.
Yep. But anyway, we can, if you guys want to lies, the Prime Directive was done to save Starfleet admirals from angry Federation politicians. That is one way of looking at it, for sure. But yeah, again, this is something that I'll be happy. We can talk about it here, but this is more meant for the rewrite, so we'll try to not focus on it as much, but I can do another chat where maybe we'll have, Runner can come back on and we can have that conversation. But the Prime Directive has always been misunderstood because it's not consistent depending on what episode you watch. But it is quite clearly not just pre-warp civilizations. I know in like 3 TNG episodes they say that, but the other 797 episodes of all of Star Trek don't work that way. But I get why it's confusing, because most people draw almost everything they know about Trek from TNG. I'm not sure why, but honest to God, that is how it works. Anyway, so we talking about Horizon, or are you beating the hell out of that game? How you doing? I'm going to go over here and look.
So, of course, you're watching when I'm doing like the third hardest trick in the run. That's great. That's exactly what I need right now. It's the pressure. I'm not ready. I can't do it. For those of you not aware, because I don't think he's restreaming this, I'm not sure he can. not with our current setup. I'm actually playing Super Metroid on the side, and you're probably thinking, "Oh my god!" It helps me think. It helps me to stay concentrated, except when I'm doing that. First try. All right, so that is a lot harder to do than it looks. I am actually really happy with that. Horizon. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Horizon is a Season 2 episode. You're probably wondering why we're restructuring Season 2 stuff into Season 1 stuff. Living document, by the way. That's a good way to phrase that, Cedric. I like that. The Prime Directive in general, or whatever we're going to call it, because it shouldn't be called the Prime Directive, it should be a living document. But if you want to say thank you, Laura Reloaded, go for it.
Oh, thank you. Who am I saying it to? Cedric?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks. I was going to let you continue, though.
It's cool. No, I don't mind being interrupted. It's cool. It's cool. I just want to make sure that they're being awesome. You're being awesome.
Oh, I got him. Don't worry. As soon as you're done, I would tell him thank you.
Okay. So, I just finished, I think I just said this, I just finished Season 2 of Enterprise from my perspective. And as I was going through, I noticed that Adectus just subbed to me, so thank you very much, Adectus.
I was about to be there.
No, I'm good at that. I could segue right into that. And Adectus was telling me about Season 2 of Enterprise. See, the thing is, a lot of Season 2 of Enterprise, in my opinion, despite the fact that there is a stated mandate, and I've pulled this interview, and I talk about it during the ruminations, there's a stated mandate to push away from continuity from Paramount. That actually came down from on high, from above Berman. Came down and said, no, less continuity. Despite that, Season 2 is the world-building season of Enterprise. And I don't know if that was deliberate or not. It just kind of ended up that way. So as I'm going through, I'm looking at through these episodes, and so many of them fit better if they push them back into Season 1, because so many of them are just developing the world of Star Trek, developing the relationship of the Vulcans, the Andorians, the nature of how the cargoes work, and the Earth Cargo Authority is actually an entity, and they talk about that, and there's just all sorts of stuff that they discuss and present in there, which is really cool, and really helps, again, with just establishing, and I think that should be back in Season 1. So as a consequence, I have tried to sell Mr. Reloaded here on, shifting several Season 2 episodes into Season 1, starting with Horizon, which is, of course, the big one for Travis, the only Travis Mayweather episode in Enterprise. I'm not actually making that up. It's the only Travis-centric episode in the whole thing.
I think I've said it. It's while doing these, it's something I've really realized, and it's sad. Legacy Trek is diverse, but they like to just keep the diversity in the background. And that's something that we were working on changing, because it's just not fair to the characters and everything. But yeah, the diversity is okay as long as they get to smile for those photo ops.
He's on the cover of all the pictures they take. He's right there. Cashel says, Lore, he's been in space.
He has been in space.
And that's his character. So I don't remember what we came up with for his character, but we're gonna just start with Horizon for right now.
Well, didn't he? It was something to do with his. I gave the pitch that the government was going to help his family out if he joined, because he was.
Yeah, that's right. It was going to be like pseudo insidious, but not really.
But you didn't like that, so we kiboshed that. It was something else, but that was my pitch for it, and then we went another way.
Yeah, I need to rewatch the VOD and take some notes.
This would really help if we wrote it in this bare bone rewrites thing that I made right here. That's really fancy.
It would be nice if someone who was you had written that down, because I certainly don't do that.
It's not my job, sir.
No, it's not. I'm just pointing out you can't point a finger at me without also pointing a finger at yourself.
I mean, you can ask. I'm not really good at not only not doing administrative, but keeping up with promises. Just go onto my Patreon and ask them how that works out. So, I mean...
Ironically, I'm actually quite good at administrative stuff. It's just I have 7,000 other things to do.
Well, 7,000...
I'm also building a new document, which is better than yours in every way. No, I am kidding. I'm kidding. All right, so moving on.
Give up, baby.
Horizon.
Don't expect me to do administrative stuff.
Horizon. I mean, you do have 2 kids to take care of. I do not, so I don't have as much of an excuse as you do on that front. Absolutely. They are more important than this.
Mayweather, in these are the voyages I exist. Yay.
It's true. He's there. He is present in the episode. Oh, God, you're making me screw up the jobs.
He is the Uhura of Enterprise.
Oh, God. He is. He is the Uhura of Enterprise, and it's such a damn shame, because he's not a terrible actor, and there's potential with the character, and they never do anything with it. Boy, that sounds familiar to anyone who's ever watched any Star Trek ever.
What is replacing Horizon season? So we're either going to put another episode from somewhere else, or ultimately we will just write another episode for it. We're just going to
Oh
plug
my
and write
god.
another episode.
Sorry. That is actually the hardest jump in the game, and I just did it first try. I cannot believe that. Anyways,
Oh,
so Horizons. Now, you did not addict us. If you want to tell me, let me know. Either way, I'm going to talk about Horizons finally. I don't actually think much needs to be changed from that episode, if indeed anything. The episode is actually really good as is. So,
what is it?
for those of you who don't remember Horizons, it's the episode where Travis gets a little bit of free time and he goes back to the Horizon. I keep saying Horizons, it's actually just Horizon. That's my fault. It's the name of his ship, and yes, it is implied to be the one in that eventually leads to the episode Piece of the Action over in TOS. So, for anybody curious of that, I did look into that. And it's just it's a cargo ship that's run by a family. It's run under the Earth Cargo Authority, and there's just world building, and there's just concepts there of like, so this is how society is breaking down a little bit because, and this is such a cool idea, and I kind of want to do more with this than the episode does. The idea is that so many people are at that cusp of, man, I can't wait to go out there and explore and be a part of Starfleet, and it'll be great, that their recruitment numbers are down, and they kind of need those people, right? Like they need people hauling freight. It's required for the infrastructure of their society, and yet so many people are disinclined to do it because they're going for the glitzier, glammier post of being in Starfleet, and so that's something that doesn't really get looked at in the episode. It looked at in the episode itself, and I would really love to dig more into that because that is a problem that by TNG's time they have solved by virtue of having what is effectively a post-scarcity society. But they're not there yet, right? They're in the in-between. They're trying to figure that out. They're trying to be like, okay, well, we need someone to haul freight. How do we make that happen? And I think there's potential there for storytelling. Do you disagree?
I don't. What exactly would you add, or is that more?
I wouldn't do it in this episode. I'll go ahead and say that. I would, however,
just set it up in this episode.
Yes, absolutely. Again, the episode itself kind of does. So Travis's brother has recently, as in within the last 6 weeks, taken over command of the Horizon by virtue of being the son of the previous captain. Interesting method, but let's not go into that. Although we could. So he's struggling with it, and he's having issues making time and dealing with pirates and dealing with, the lack of recruitment. And then his brother, Travis, Travis shows up, and Travis is the superstar, right? Because he's in Starfleet, and he's on the first Warp 5 vessel, and he's just so damn fancy. And that's pretty much the thrust of the episode and the conflict between the two. So all of that's actually pretty well done. It's one of my favorite episodes of Enterprise overall, and I mean that legitimately, not counting season 3 and season 4 because I'm not there yet. But so one of the other things I would want to establish is there's this bit where they're running from pirates, right? Where they're actually there's these pirates have threatened to take all their stuff because that's what pirates do. What's interesting about this sequence, though, is they struggle to try and get away, and they think about actually dumping cargo to go faster, which let's ignore that for a moment, because this is space and warp drive. Let's not nitpick too badly. The point is they consider trying to go faster. That's the relevant point. And it doesn't help. But it's worth noting that the pirate ships are barely keeping up as is. Why is that relevant? Because it helps to establish something that I want to be a significant point for most of Season 1. Laura Reloaded and I were actually talking about this earlier. The idea of having a Warp 5 ship is a big deal, right? Like, and for those of you who don't know, which is I'm sure none of you, but just to make this very clear, the warp scale is logarithmic. Warp 5 is hugely faster than Warp 4, which is hugely faster than Warp 3, etc., etc., etc. Like, it goes up. So Warp 5 ship, that's insane. That allows them to travel many, many light years. I think 30 light years in like 5 hours or something like that is a number that was quoted in one of the episodes. We could come up with specifics later, but the point is Warp 5 compared to Warp 2 is a mountain of difference. Thus, the idea of establishing that all these cargo haulers and all these other alien ships that are within what I keep mentally referring to as the home sector are slow. Like, Warp 2 is high-end for them. Cruising speed is probably close to Warp 1. Yeah, you get it, Von Falkenstein. You get where I'm going with this. So the idea of the Enterprise being this big one, of being able to accomplish Warp 5, I think that should be more of a point than it is. And I think that it should be I think it should be presented as such, and thus we could use this episode in exactly that manner, as the episode kind of does. The funny thing, though, is the way this episode fails in the actual presentation. The actual episode fails in this front, is they don't actually make that relevant. It's just they mention that there were two, the end, right? What I would do is I always have this thing where Enterprise drops him off, and Enterprise is going to have to come and pick him up, and I would make just a one-line reference to that, because Enterprise has to pick them up because the freighter is so slow comparatively that the freighter would have to go massively out of its way. The Horizon would have to go massively out of its way in order to be able to drop him off. So Enterprise has to reach him. This then could become part of the conclusion of the episode, is the fact that one of the strategies that they consider as they're fighting off the actual pirate attack is, we just need to hold out until the Enterprise shows up. And we get a signal out, they will be here in X hours, right? If we can survive for X hours, that'll be a thing. Now, you're probably thinking, what's the significance of that, Laura? All that's doing is calling for help. Well, A, they don't need it anyways because they solved the problem in their own way. But B, and far more importantly, it helps to further emphasize just how big a deal it is having this one Warp 5 ship. And if you think about it, and we absolutely will do this later, how much of a weakness that is for Starfleet for having one Warp 5 ship, just the one. This will also lend further credence into why they're going to want to make more NXs as quickly as they can, because they've effectively tied their entire fleet, as far as mobile operating and response time, into one ship, right? Anyways, I'm going to stop talking. I apologize.
No, why you stop talking?
I just got this impression you were just glaring at me, especially as you're talking a hard-boiled one over there.
No, not at all. I'm just keeping up with the things while we're having a conversation. I was listening to you. You're doing well. You gotta, don't get self-conscious, sir. You're good. You're good. You know what you're doing. You're the best. Hey, one in the chats for Lore Runner if you think he's great at this.
Or 3 if you feel like being contrarian.
No. 1 in the chat if you feel he's the 2 if you think he may be the one for you. No, wrong ship. Piece of the action was a Federation Reach vessel. I don't understand that.
So what he's referring to is the fact that the Horizon is not the Horizon, even though the Horizon is the Horizon. And I know.
There we go.
It doesn't actually matter, really. And that's it is thrown in as a reference and a joke, but this is Star Trek.
Gotcha.
If you want continuity from Star Trek, you're probably in the wrong thing.
So we got quite a few ones. Think you do good. Got quite a 2. You may ladies man, listen guys, listen. Are you looking for the guy for you?
Because it's not me. I work 60 hours. Well, no, that's not true. I work more than 60 hours a week.
This man is dedicated and committed. That's what that says to you. 60 hours for what he does.
What TSB said in chat, I do take my job very seriously. What TSB said in chat is he gets it perfectly. It's like having a single aircraft carrier in World War II. That is exactly what I want from the Federation. That's exactly the vibe I want right there. We have tied up so much of our ability to operate in this one ship. And that's great that we have it. And I want these first few episodes, because Horizon's going to lead into another one. We'll talk about that in a second. Which is exactly using this exact same point. But second hardest jump of the game, first try. But I like the idea of it effectively becoming a negative thing, of Starfleet being hampered by how few ships they have and their shipbuilding capacities. There's the 4th hardest jump of the game, first try. I'm just on fire today. I need to talk about Enterprise more. This is doing wonders for my time. Because this could, I know that people aren't really caring about things like manufacturing capacity of Starfleet, but I have to say that the extremely limited manufacturing capacity of Starfleet is something I think should actually be a plot point, especially when we get to the Xindi thing.
Well, it goes into the It goes to discussing the Federation and them trying to get out too quickly. Anyway, like they wanted so badly to build this one ship and do this one thing, versus creating an infrastructure where they could have multiple ships, which probably wouldn't have held them back much longer anyway. Probably still could have done it, but they were just racing to get there, that they put themselves in this position when arguably they may have not had to. So I think it ties in. I like it.
I agree completely. And of course, the episode you're referencing there is First Flight, which we also mentioned earlier off camera. And yeah, in that episode, there was just this huge push on behalf of basically everyone, not just the main characters, of, oh, we've got to get to space, we've got to get to space, we've got to make this ship, and we've got to get out there, and the Vulcans are holding us back. No, you don't understand. And the Vulcans are like, why don't we do some tests and check it out first? And it's such a reasonable thing, and Starfleet is like, rah, let's go. I mean, I get it, but it's exactly what he's saying. In other words, Starfleet has effectively shot themselves in the foot, is the overall idea here. Like, they didn't have to be this curtailed. They didn't have to run out with a half-finished ship, just desperate to get everything, desperate to prove that they could do it, desperate to start exploring. And they are going to suffer for it in later seasons. Not now, but we do want. But this is the value of continuity. We have to establish that they are the first Warp 5 ship. We have to establish how different this is, because otherwise, later when it comes up, it won't have as much impact.
Right. Could the 22nd Century Intrepid class be refuted with a Warp 5 engine? Be refuted with a Warp Drive engine.
I don't understand that question. I'm sorry.
I don't either. Lore Runner, I disagree. I'm interested in seeing the fleet expand. I'm not sure where you're coming on either of those, 14K Liam.
I think he means he doesn't want Enterprise especially Enterprise Season 1, to be primarily about one ship. Okay. As opposed to Starfleet, which is more than one ship, obviously.
Retrofitted. Could the 22nd Century Intrepid class be retrofitted with a Warp 5? I mean, I gotta imagine so. No, there were 2 other ships being constructed at the time.
And that's why they're actually done by the time Season 3 finishes. I had to think about that for a second. It's actually a plot point, because Tucker ends up going over one of them briefly.
Right. All right, so that was. Did you have anything you wanted to add to Horizon, or
No, it's a great episode as is. I would. So sometimes when we rewrite an episode, we only do what I call polishing, just a few little tiny details, which mostly just set up for later stuff or clean up little things, little edits. And honestly, I think Horizon's one of those.
There's one of the things you forgot to add too, though, that comes with Terra Nova. Remember?
Oh, you are absolutely right. So one of the things. What would be the best way to present that? So one of the things, and again, this ties into the idea of the one ship, right? The one ship which has Warp 5, the one weak point, the one thing that they're relying on. There's a term for that. Help me out, guys. It's not weak point. It's the one blank. Point of failure. Singular point of failure. That's it. Having this, so one of the points there is that after this incident with the pirate, which could eventually lead to Unfortunate Son, consequently, mourn. What ends up happening is, in the background, probably back on the NX, they would have this conversation about a laundry list that the Federation. I do it in the Ruminations too. It's so logical to call them the Federation, right? Even though they don't exist yet.
I understand kind of why they kept the same name, but it's so stupid and it's so confusing, especially since they go out of their way to delineate that it's a separate entity. They just called and they named them the same, because why the hell wouldn't they?
Yeah. Anyway, sorry. First of all, really quick, thank you, creator, for the sub. I've put that towards Command & Conquer 3. You are awesome. Thank you. One of the things I like the idea of is the EarthGov, which is what I'm just going to start calling them. I know it's from Babylon 5, and I don't care. EarthGov starts sending up like a laundry list of stuff to check up on, stuff that they want Enterprise to look into, because they have spent so much time and so much effort on all of the space flights, the stuff they've done prior to now, that they haven't really followed through on quite a few of those. There are several things that they simply haven't had the time, because, I mean, they had ships that went Warp 2, right? So it's like, okay. And by the way, actually, that's a lie. They didn't really have ships that had Warp 2. They were 15 months prior to the Enterprise launching. They had ships that had trouble going Warp 2. That's how much further behind they were, right? And that's important to mention. So again, they start getting this laundry list of, hey, could you check this out? And one of the things, when Mayweather gets back or before he leaves, I'm not sure, which do you think would work best narratively? Because it's basically going to be the beginning of the episode or end of the episode setup, and I'm not sure which.
Well, if you want to make it more of a thing, it would be before he heads out. Like, he could talk about it, maybe even bring it up with his.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Because it could be, maybe it could be a thing, like, because there's trouble between him and his brother, but that could be a thing that, like, before they actually fix their issues, he tries to bring it up. Like, I forget exactly how it is, but if he's trying to connect with his brother and his brother's not having it, he could bring it. He's like, "Hey, did you know one of the things we're going to do is be going to Terra Nova? We got orders that we're supposed to go there, even though the Vulcans are going to be so mad. Can you believe?" And then you can have his brother. "Oh yeah, I bet you're going to enjoy that on your Warp 5 ship and your fancy Starfleet. Just not having it."
Yeah.
And then he just drops it, and we can bring it back into the next episode. But anyway.
But no, I agree, and I do like the idea of it being at the beginning. So at the beginning of the episode, then they would start getting this laundry list. It would be kind of a background element for next several episodes, actually. And so yeah, Travis would link onto that because Travis is into mysteries, and he's like, "Oh my God, the Terra Nova colony! I've always wondered what happened to that one. I was reading about that one, even over on the horizon." And then, as Mr. Reloaded says, he brings it up to his brother and talks about it, and his brother's all pissy. And Sean donates a sub to me because he's awesome. Thank you very much, Sean. I'll put that to Shantae and Bug Fables in just a moment. I think that's it at that point for Horizon.
So, two pieces. Winnell says, since they have deflector technology and know about shields, shouldn't 22nd Earth ships have shields? Deflector technology is separate from shields. It works in a different way. In the original series, the very first episode, in fact, shields originally you couldn't shoot out of or into. And then in the exact same episode, all of a sudden you can shoot out of them.
Listen, consistency's for nerds, all right? I think we all know that.
But yeah, so I would say that they're just different technologies. They may provide shielding, but they work in different ways. And then AM brought something up. If I were to have some actual scripts for your rewritten episodes, where or how would be a good place to place them for you to see and potentially use? There's no guarantee that we'll use them. But if you wanted to, you could do it one of two places. You can either put it into my Discord, into the Trek Rewrite channel, because I do look at those. Or you can send it to james@lorereloaded.com. I'm sure Runner, I'm not sure if he would, but Mr. Runner would be okay with you putting it in his Discord too. We
actually have a channel just for the Rewrite project.
Yeah, I created one after I heard about yours and saw yours. So those would be the places to do it, I would suggest. But that moves into Terra Nova.
I'll let you take kind of the thrust on that one.
Well, I mean, so Terra Nova...
Actually, hang on. Before you keep going, I'm sorry. Do you mind if I interrupt you real quick, please?
Oh, yeah, no.
So, several people in your chat are referencing the shields thing. Now, can I just go ahead and say, having very, very recently as last week, gone through Season 2 of Enterprise, the hull plating thing pisses me off so badly. Because if you replace the words hull plating with the word shields, it is a 1-to-1 conversion. Hull plating is down to 15% is not how that works. That's so stupid, and has always irritated the piss out of me. But here's the thing: in Horizon, it's even worse because they do that on the horizon. The horizon's like hull plating's at 26% when the pirates attack, and I'm just sitting there like, oh come on, why? Okay, we're done. None of that. That's dumb.
By the way, you see what Sean J73 wanted to put it towards?
He did. Shantae, Half Genie Hero, and Bug Fables. I don't even have to check because he's been doing that consistently for several months now.
Just making sure.
I did write it down, though. Thank you for checking.
So just upload the Google Doc, or just send it to james@lorereloaded.com. Sure. Or upload it. It's whatever. If you're going to put it in either of the channels, do it as write or view only. I think people would be fine, but let's just do it that way.
Just to be safe.
Yeah. So we're talking about Terra Nova. So Terra Nova is kind of an interesting case. The way we would first write it is, for the background of Terra Nova, what happened is Earth wanted to do something deep space. And so they sent out a ship, and they found a planet that's 9 years away. They sent out the ship. The ship gets there in 9 years. For some reason, Archer keeps saying 9 years there and 9 years back, even though they had no way.
Terrible dialogue.
They had no way of coming back, so there's
no plans to come back too. It's
plans to come back, so there's no reason that he would keep saying it that way. Makes me think that it was written by two different people, but whatever. 9 years there, so they get there and they build their little settlement. EarthGov and Terra Nova get into spats because they don't want more people coming over.
Even though it's a planet.
even though it's a planet, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. They can just create their own settlements if they don't want to, and why wouldn't you want more people there to help you in a untamed
God, I
land?
hate
But
that episode. I'm sorry.
whatever.
It's just such a crap episode.
I,
I'm
I
sorry.
don't think they even said how many people were there.
It was a few thousand. That
But yeah, it's like, okay, so it was a few thousand, and it's like, hey, we just want to
we
get
want this whole planet to ourselves, guys. We really need breathing room here. That's
we're
what we
gonna
need.
we're gonna send you 250 people, which is less than even, it's like barely over 10%
Less
of what
people than
you
that live in my, or excuse me, more people than that live in my apartment complex.
yeah. So, and they're like, no, that's an invasion. So whatever. So the way we would rewrite most of that is that, so they send them there for the 9 years. They plan on after 9 years they plan on staying there. EarthGov and Terra Nova get into a spat. I might change it a little bit where it's either more than 250, like substantially more. We're going to send 5,000 this time, or we're going to send 250 uh administrative assistants or something like that, where EarthGov is like, hey, we're going to they've done it for a couple of years. We could even move that out. So in Terra Nova, they've been there for 3 or 4 years. They've gotten the groove down. They actually have their own elections at a local level or whatever, and then EarthGov comes up and says, hey, we think things could be done better, so we're just going to send over these people, and they're going to assist you by completely taking over your entire government unelected. And Terra Nova says, nah, y'all, we don't need that. We don't need that at all. If you guys come near us, we'll blow your ship out of the sky. Now, all that actually that blowing the ship out of the sky is OG. That actually happened in the original one. The rewrite for us is that EarthGov would be like, well, we don't want our ships blown out of the sky, and Vulcans can get there a lot faster.
Because again, slow warp speed, as we already established.
Yeah. So at a minimum, what we'll do is they actually reach out to the Vulcans and they say, can you at least check on the planet and make sure everything's going okay and see if there's any kind of arrangement we can come to. The Vulcans go over there. They're like, hey, everything all right? And do you want to talk to EarthGov? Terra Nova says you can go beat sand. Vulcans be Vulcans. Then they walk away. It's not their problem anymore. All of a sudden, after, we'll say, another 70 years or something, or another time, Terra Nova just goes silent. Or maybe shortly after that, maybe a couple weeks after that, they go silent, and Earth just assumes that they've cut off all relations. And they want to go and check and see what happened. And the Vulcans actually stop Earth from doing that. They say, hey, if you go and check that, we're going to stop helping you with this Warp 5 project, and we're going to pull back. And so Earth decides not to. The reason why the Vulcans do that is because they believe that it will prevent a war. They think that a war will break out. That's just not good for anybody. That's more destabilizing of the Alpha Quadrant. So just leave them be. Let them do whatever. Don't go see them. If you do, we won't help you. Earth says fine. All right, so now that's all the way back up to where we are now, where now that we have a Warp 5 ship, now that we feel like we've advanced, we can get there in no time at all. Even though the Vulcans are still saying don't go, hey, it's Archer. Who cares, right? 14K Leum says, I always thought that Terra Nova was founded by a separatist group. They were not, no. They were loyal to Earth, but then a faction that was getting upset at Earth because they wanted to send more people gained control. And I'm going to address the people who are giving in just a second, guys. I'm coming back to that, I promise. So anyway, Archer's going to be Archer, and he says, all right, so we're going to go check it out. We're going to see what happened. We're going to do first contact with them. We're going to bring it back. This is going to be our farthest colony, and it's going to be great, and everything's going to work wonders. Let me address this before we move forward, though. Cedric says, but the Andorians, they were happy to supply the phasers. That's true. That's true. I love that line. That's awesome. Nate Watson, we could have them be radical separatists from Earth who are opposed to cooperating with Earth for ideological reasons. So it is possible that we could go that route. I think what I'd probably do is, again, Earth decides that they want to change Terra Nova for whatever reason. They want to make it more militaristic, or maybe they want to start having them build stuff, something that Terra Nova doesn't want to do. And so they decide to send, again, administrative assistance, which would give radical separatists more power, because that would be something the populace doesn't want to. Would you be okay with that, Runner?
I'm trying to think of the episode, and I feel like we've already covered it. Uh, where god damn it, I've succeeded every difficult jump, and I failed at this really easy one. Where we've already established that there was a planet that was on the border between Andorian space and uh,
Yeah.
Vulcan space. Which was that?
That was the one they went to explore. It was.
That's right, the gas planet. Yeah. Okay. So what I was kind of thinking is we could basically kind of drag that in. Basically, exactly what you're saying, but the specific reasoning being that there's already tensions here, right? There's already the other powers which are not exactly pro-Vulcan, and there's already basically I really want to push the Sengoku Jedi thing. That did you know the season 2 stuff really pushes too? I'm not bragging or anything. I'm just legitimately amused that what was effectively a pure headcanon theory of mine is just getting more and more confirmed the more I'm watching Enterprise. But one of the things, so I'm going to jump into this really quick, forgive me. One of the things that happens a lot in season 2 is we find out about ex-alien power, and they have several traits. They are reasonably advanced, but at the same time not really, and they're advancing slowly. Now, I'm pretty sure the specific reason they're doing it is because humans are special, but what makes way more sense to me is that there's basically a state of technological stagnation that is happening within the home sector, because there's so many alien races who all got to space at relatively the same time, and as a direct consequence, they all started staring at each other, and they started pouring more and more time and effort and resources into their internecine conflicts rather than advancing, and as a direct consequence, they've stagnated, right? Logical? And there's several signs of that. Like, there's a freaking treaty between the Vulcans and the Andorians that goes back a century. They have had space flight and territorial claims disputes that go back a century. Think about that, and we're dead. So I like the idea of codifying that a bit more, and of course this ties into the Terra Nova thing, and one of the other reasons why the Vulcans specifically were like, no. Because after all, if we're going to get involved in this, then that's going to destabilize us, right? So I just wanted to, none of this is really relevant in the episode proper, but you guys know me, world builder at heart, so my general point is that this is the kind of thing that should be in the background, probably just a mention, maybe one line or two, from someone like, say, T'Pol.
Right. Well, and to that point, that would be something that comes in too, because T'Pol would be against this. She would quite point out that Vulcans are still restricting humans from going to Terra Nova. And I mean, Archer could come back with, or what? You won't help us build a Warp 5 reactor? Because now they don't really have a lot of legs to stand on when it comes to that. So against the wishes of T'Pol, they continue on and go. And they arrive only to find out that, so what happens is they get there, they try to hail them. No one responds. They then use their scanners, and of course, they don't see anybody. And so one of the major changes we would do, and admittedly, this is going to be hard to make an episode people would watch, and I really want to push, just because I want to see us do it. But
I'll take ownership of this. This was my idea. It's a terrible idea. It would probably not be an entertaining episode of Star Trek, but I'm
gonna make you make it entertaining. So what? They're not going to find anyone. As far as they can tell, everyone is gone or dead. They're going to find the radiation. It's now within levels that they can get down there. When they arrive, there's going to be a couple of weird things, though. There's going to be, I don't think we ever came up with it, but there's going to be a word.
The word. It needs to be something nondescript, really.
There's going to be a word that's going to be used over and over. It's going to be on the pads or the paper. It's going to be etched into the walls. And sometimes, even in a couple of instances, the word isn't even finished. But the word seems very vital. Another piece that's going to happen is all around the settlement are what was it? What were the things? What they call them? They're not statues. What are they?
Oh, the mummification things?
No, sir.
Well,
What are you
then
talking
what?
about?
What do you? Then
That
I don't know
doesn't
what
have
you.
anything to do with
Then
anything.
I don't know what you're
Stop
referencing.
saying crazy stuff. Monoliths. There we go.
Oh, right, the pillars. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There are pillars all
And they're
around.
only Michael. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly. There are pillars all around the settlement, and there's two things to that. First off, the pillars are metals that they can identify, and that could have been on the ship, uh, but they weren't. They weren't in the manifests. They weren't from the ship. Everything is where it's supposed to be. They used all of the ship, so these pillars would have had to come from somewhere else. Either they made them, and they don't see the factories or technology it would have took to make them, or they somehow got there. No one would be there, and the only way that they could figure out what was going on is through the uh, pads and the personal logs that were left.
Also, I think this is important. One of the earliest visual imagery things in the episode would be they come across a room, and while it's dusty because it's been abandoned for a while, it's fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just a completely ordinary moon. There's still glassware set out on the table. You know, no signs of a struggle, no signs of an attack, just normal.
Right. And and here's a piece, and without giving it away, because there's going to be more. As you guys know, we tie stuff in, stuff that we have in this episode that we don't explain is going to be explained in future episodes at some point. Let me ask you this: so we know what happened. We know. Okay. Well, I need you to go. Here's what we're going to do. Here's what we're going to do.
Are you messaging me on Discord?
I am, in fact, messaging.
Well, in that case, let me pause the game and pull up Discord, because I usually keep Discord down when I'm streaming.
So here, I'm just going to put this on right here.
I'm watching. I have it on my phone. Ooh,
I think it adds a mystery either way.
I agree, and that's why I'm torn. Because if it's not obvious, and it should be really obvious, we're basically building up a mystery episode. You know, a solve it episode. What the heck happened here?
But we don't solve it.
Yeah. No, yeah. The point, spoilers, is that we are not going to solve it in this episode. That is, in fact, much of the point of the episode. Okay. I like the idea of not.
Hold on.
Okay. I wait for him to type. He's typing furiously. You can hear his keyboard just in the background there. Actually, if he had a mechanical... Do you have a mechanical keyboard?
Not on this one.
I was going to say, that doesn't sound like one, but if you ever heard someone type normally on a mechanical keyboard, and it's just...
I actually like them, but this one is not.
Yeah, I specifically stopped using a mechanical on stream because I'd be playing a PC game, and you know the mic's right there, so...
Right. So what do you think? I'm fine with not, but I think it adds something.
No, I'm thinking. I think I agree with you.
So we would do that then?
Mm-hmm.
So what would happen is there actually would be mass graves. Now, the interesting thing is these graves would be, for the time, how the graves would have been. So someone went out of their way to do graves that would be honorable to the people. It's not just like they threw them in a ditch and hoped everything worked out. They were actual graves. They're set in a row. Each of them have a name, everything like that. The only things that are missing are specifically the leaders of the civilization. So it would be, and both. It'd be both the leaders who still wanted to be loyal to EarthGov, as well as the rebels. And the bodies are nowhere. There's no other bodies or anything like that. They're just gone, and there's no gravesite there for them.
One of the other things too is this is probably obvious, but part of the point would be that as they're going through, we can't focus an entire 44 minutes of television on just them, scanning the planet and finding this stuff. So we'd have to intersperse it one of the things that I personally find is the best ways to exemplify a mystery episode or a mystery movie or game or whatever is to show how people react to it. And so this would, in some ways, also be a character piece, I think. Feel free to disagree with me, Reloaded. I didn't actually mention this earlier because I'm stupid. But this is something I was thinking. The idea of, like, so T'Pol would just be like... Actually, no, I take that back. T'Pol would be into it. Because it's a puzzle, right? Mm-hmm. It's something to solve. And so she's like, huh. And so she would be one of the more dedicated people trying to piece together what's going on, right?
There's more to this too, though. Again, because it's character building for Archer and T'Pol, as we discussed.
That's awesome.
Because T'Pol's whole thing would be, it's a bad idea to go. We told you not to go. We're Vulcans. We're always right. We told you not to go there. We shouldn't be going there. Why are we going there? All of a sudden, we're here and they're all dead. Why did we tell you not to go here? We're Vulcans. We're always right. How did this not work out the way we thought that it would work out? And so I think it would not only be a puzzle for her, but it would be personal for her. Mm-hmm. You know?
No, I agree. It would have to be minor, but having watched season 1 and 2 of Enterprise, I can say I actually have faith in Jolene Blaylock's acting capacity because she can act. It's strange. They almost never give her a chance to, but every time she does a really good job with it.
And I'm hungry. Okay, get your sister, get you some, and there's food in there.
You can take a moment if you need it.
Oh yeah, sorry, I did take a moment. Can you repeat the last sentence?
Okay, so the idea is I have an itch on my nose in the middle of this corridor. Oh my god. There we go. Okay. Is that I've lost my train of thought completely. Damn it. I got hit by a fork in the road. T'Pol interested in it personal because of their relationship. So I feel like we would probably have at least... Yeah, so, okay, right, that's where I was going. Thank you, Kira White Noise. So, T'Pol is obviously wigged out by this. She's allowed to act, right. Jolene Blaylock is actually a good actress. That's the main sentence I said. And we know why they didn't give her a chance to act. It's because she's attractive. Now, I'm sorry to say that so bluntly. It's irritating to me because she is a good actress. And every time they allow her to, there's a reason she's basically my favorite Enterprise character. And it's not because of whatever you're thinking. It's because of the fact that Jolene Blaylock is actually a decent actress. And they do some good stuff with her whenever she actually is given an opportunity to do so. I am reminded, if I might be so bold, of Seven. Because, again, similar situation. You know, every time she's allowed to actually do something, she's awesome. But anyways, I'm getting way off topic. Apologies. This is not a rant fest. This is a rewrite. So she is going to be given a chance to act, and there's got to be this thing because she can't show any of it with her face. The actress will have to show this in her actions because her face is all composed, right? So she'll be bothered by this, but she can't frown. She can't go, she can't deal with that in any of the normal ways an actor or actress would demonstrate that. They have to, she's just going to have to show it by persistence of animation. Like, I can just picture a scene where she is trying to work on something, and then she leans against the wall for a moment, and then immediately goes right back to it, and then the doctor, who we haven't named yet, is like, are you all right? You seem to be having some trouble there. And he talks like Phlox for some stupid reason.
Here's an idea, I think. What if, because we have it where her and Archer are not like besties, like even worse than what they are now, right? They're not on the same page. And we've had it where she's always countering him or coming up and pointing out stuff, kind of like she does. Maybe we have Archer be his normal great self towards her during this episode, and she just takes it, which is completely out
of character for her. Out of
character for her. So he's bringing up points, and she just sits there and takes it, which even the crew notices. Like they look kind of weird because she's not coming back at him, or when she comes back at him, it's a lot less than what it usually is. And then we even have a moment there where and we'll get Archer there somehow, but Archer may say, you weren't all wrong because Earth was in a volatile state. They could have going back there was definitely what we should have done, but maybe we would have went there half cocked. So the Vulcans weren't wrong. And he even, he does his aw shucks. Sometimes he does at the end. He's like, I couldn't help but notice you weren't fighting me as much as you usually do. It was kind of odd. And she just stays quiet, and he turns around to leave. And right before he leaves, she says something like, because you were right. And he turns
I think that's a
around.
little too obvious for me, but I like the overall idea.
Then how would you do it, sir? How would you write it?
Well, first I'd write it good. No, I'm sorry. So you can always tell when I'm joking because I make a point of making it obvious. I do think that's too obvious. I wouldn't have her have. So okay, rewind a second. I would have the character that points it out rather than being Archer. I would have it be earlier in the episode, and I would have it be Hoshi. Remember, we did establish that one of the character connector points would be between Hoshi and T'Pol, right?
Right.
And I stand by that. I think it's a good move. So I think that Hoshi would be the one who would be like, "You're just gonna take that." Something like that, right? Like just almost in a joking manner, and T'Pol doesn't react to it, and that's when Hoshi starts to realize that she's actually onto something. Like, T'Pol, you normally don't, and then she hesitates like right there, in the middle of the sentence, and T'Pol just looks up and says, "If there's nothing else, I am in the middle of this study," and just kind of shuts her down hard, right? Mm-hmm. And that would be how I would do that. And then we get to the aw shucks scene. Here's what I would do with the aw shucks scene. I would have Archer oblivious. What he would do is he would be like, I just gotta say, you put in a good performance this week. Much smoother, much less issues than usual. I'm really happy with that. Keep up the good work, T'Pol. And then just to really throw it, have him grin and like slap her on the back or something. Like, good work, T'Pol. Because completely not getting it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's how I would do that, personally. Thoughts?
It's a little vague, I think.
I do write vague. That is my writing style, I'll admit it. I tend to not say things outright.
Well, and I don't mind that. I just don't know that it gets the point across. I don't know if I might end it with you don't want to tell them because you want to think good of your audience. You want to assume your audience is intelligent, which I'm all for, which is we don't have to tell them. I'd just like to add something like maybe after he leaves, she watches him and then she turns around and starts writing a report or calls up the Vulcan High Command and in some way says they were wrong and then leave it there. So we don't even have to say they were wrong, but maybe say, I don't know, you'd say you're wrong without actually saying.
So what she could do is she could be like reciting her report, and in the recitation, it's very dry, it's very bland, but she mentions what's a good word for mistaken?
Error?
The error that was made by Vulcan High Command has been corrected, and it's just like this one little thing. I can't believe I did that first try again. Oh my god. Just a little aside thing like that, where she specifically and casually, but in a normal tone, refers to the Vulcan decision as a mistake.
Right. Or maybe a miscalculation.
Oh, that's a good word. Miscalculation. The Vulcan High Command's miscalculation with regards to the Terra Nova colony has been rectified. And and then that's like how she begins her report.
Right.
Would that work?
Yeah, I like it. Excellent. Nate Wilson, maybe T'Pol is conflicted. Her Vulcan government official side is, well, we can't go for their political reasons, but her scientist side needs to know or something. Yeah, I just think, and again, we don't have to say this piece. I just think she feels like she takes it personal. She feels like this was a mistake on the Vulcan side as well. And it's something they have to help with and they have to fix. Because again, it was just a miscalculation on their side. And so obviously if they did something like that, they'd want to fix it. And again, she's growing closer with the crew. It seems important to Mayweather and Hoshi. And so she's more and more coming along to, well, this is important to them. So this is now important to me.
That's how that's supposed to work, the interpersonal. Right. I've been studying interpersonal interactions. I've read several books about it.
Right.
Very data kind of a thing.
Yeah, and then they don't figure out who it is. It's still a mystery, but they do at least know how, and we can even have that in. So here's the thing I hate. Here's why I say it. And again, you can message me on Discord, and I'll stop pressing it.
This is the worst thing ever. There we go.
Well, or just stop being controversial. But it really, honest to God, felt like a head pat when I saw. So what happens is Mayweather is interested in this thing. Mayweather gets to fly the ship, and then the people, the captain and the tactical officer and everybody who's not a minority gets to go and have the adventure. And then they come back and they head pat Mayweather and say, why don't you write the report of our great adventures? So we have Mayweather go through and do all this, and then towards the end, the resolution that we'll give for this, because people would hate that there's no resolution because they can't wait like 4 episodes, but um, the resolution for this would be like, we still aren't 100% sure what happened, or why this happened, but at least we know what happened. And this is a chapter of both Earth and Vulcan history that we can lay to rest. That we came back to Terra Nova, we found out their fate to the extent that we could, and that could be Mayweather's thing. And Mayweather could, and he could still be, well, it's a mystery, but we now at least know it better than what's going on. And again, this will still tie into the future, so don't worry. There'll be more to it that will surely involve Mayweather in.
I was also going to say, as an aside, I am almost hesitant to have two character-centric episodes centered around a single character at the same time, but I've actually talked myself out of that. I want to know your thoughts before I explain why I talked myself out of that, though.
So you didn't want to do it, and now you're okay with it, or
yes,
I don't understand
that thing.
Okay,
that you just said.
Honestly, for the most part, yeah. I mean, I understand that thing, but this could also be considered a part 1 and part 2 type deal. And so I don't know that it's just completely two separate things of each other that have no bearing. If they were just random adventures, I'd probably place them out, but I think we've connected them pretty well.
I would agree with that.
But how'd you talk yourself out of it too?
Well, it's partially that. You hit the nail on the head with that one. But the other thing I was thinking is season 4 of Enterprise, the actual season 4 of Enterprise, where an arc would contain pieces of the next arc, so that the segue between arcs would be smooth, right? Mm-hmm. And it's the same kind of idea here, except instead of arcs, it's going to be character pieces, because the whole idea is that this is still going to be a Travis-centric episode, but also a T'Pol-centric episode, which would then lean up nicely if our next episode was very T'Pol-centric or something similar like that. Or it doesn't actually have to be directly, but the point is we are setting up her character while we are establishing his character, right?
Yeah, I mean,
double duty.
It could be a baton thing where they're passing it from one to the other to the other. Because the one after Terra Nova is the Andorian Incident, which actually is.
There you go, T'Pol. Bam.
Yeah, it's pretty. So it's almost, it's like poetry. It rhymes. No, what they do.
We totally didn't plan that, or at least I didn't, because I had no idea what was next. I really didn't.
I didn't even realize it was eccentric on Travis's point until you pointed that out. So, but yeah, so I agree.
I agree. Real quick, thank you, Permeus, for that sub. Always appreciate, sir.
I don't know how much you know about the actress. I was curious. Johnny Walker's just lighting her up, saying she can't act. Is there any other specific?
Yeah, Enterprise. Every time she's allowed to act in Enterprise, she is a decent actress. I'm not saying she's the greatest actress in the known history of the known universe, but she's still a good actress, and I'll stand by that one.
Okay, I didn't know if there was something else too that you had watched.
It could also be partially on the directing, because some of you may or may not be aware of this. Enterprise actually had a really good series of directors, including LeVar Burton and also David Livingston, my personal favorite Trek director. So, and also, oh God, what's her name? B'Elanna. I can't think of her name. Roxanne Dawson. There we go. She was also a regular director on Enterprise, semi-regular.
I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Including. Sorry, no. I was just going to make a side joke. Go ahead.
No, I want to hear the side joke now.
You remember the episode Bounty?
I do.
What do you remember it for?
Not goodness.
Yeah, there you go. Anyways, continue.
I was just trying to look at the things that she was a part of. She was in Stargate SG-1. She's in JAG.
Everyone from Star Trek was in that era was in SG-1. Like, freaking everyone. It's hysterical. For some time there, a friend of mine had a running gag that Stargate SG-1 was a holodeck program of Voyager and arguably of Enterprise, but mostly Voyager, because how many times that cropped up. And then the Farscape people showed up too, and it just kept going.
She was also in Starship Troopers, but that's 3, so I don't know how well she did in that one.
I haven't even seen that.
She's
probably there because she's attractive.
Well, yeah. Do what you do. All right, so moving on to the Andorian Incident.
This episode needs to be completely restructured from the ground up for being absolutely terrible. I am kidding. It's so okay. Yeah,
I was about to say that wasn't in prep, but hey, if you want to,
I've changed my mind. No, Andorian Incident is a problematic episode, I think, but it's mostly because of specific implementations, not the overall idea. I talked about Horizon earlier. Do you mind if I just pause and rant for just a second?
Sure.
Okay, cool. You guys mind? Anybody? I'm going to assume that's it. I got to wait like 30 seconds now to hear if anybody minds if I rant for a second about one of the things. Actually, I would say at this point in time, this is the biggest thing that bothers me about Voyager and Enterprise, because the exact same problem both shows have. And it's the captain must be right, capital R. And I sort of talked about that in my Voyager stuff a little bit. But having gone through Enterprise, God, it has just been right in your face how often the captain has to be right. And I've gone through several interviews, and it's clear that it is a deliberate thing. You know, I've talked many times about how, to me, Archer is an incompetent, but that is all headcanon. That is not by design of the writers, which is sad. And there's this...
Why one of the times you have to admit my way of doing things, not to interrupt you, my way of things works, like Death of the Author.
Oh, yeah.
Matter what they intended.
That is true. That is absolutely right. Because the headcanon fits better than the stated canon.
So,
it's true. I just talked about that today with Wonder Woman 1984. Oh, yeah, the theme is about truth and lies. Oh, it isn't. Anyways, no spoilers. So they're wrong, or excuse me, they're right. They must be right. I don't actually know where this attitude came from. I've been trying to dig it up in the behind the scenes, and I can't find it, but I do know that when they were casting Voyager, they had this mentality in the creative staff, and the casting director, and the actual director, and the producers, that the captain had to be absolutely correct. No, really, that they had to be the absolute hero who was right, capital R. I don't know how better to put that. To capital R, right. They needed to be in the right about whatever they say, even if there's no reason for it. And it was always bad with Janeway, but it's even worse with Archer. Now, I mentioned Horizon just a minute ago, right? In Horizon, one of the only things about that episode I didn't like, which I would absolutely torpedo, is Travis would not shut up about, well, Archer taught me such and such. Well, Archer says this and that. Well, Archer, and he's like hero worshipping Archer in exactly the same mentality I'm referring, because he's right, because he is the one true example of humanity that all should follow.
oh my God, and I'll let it go. But in my one episode that I get in all of Enterprise, I talk about my white captain and how awesome he is. It's so bad. Who writes this stuff?
Anyways, so it
realize that's horrible.
So it irritates the crap out of me, mostly because of overexposure. If it was like one episode, or even 2 or 3, okay, whatever. But it shows up non-stop. It's like every episode they have to. It's like back in Voyager when every episode, Seven had to learn a lesson about humanity. It's like, okay, that's neat. Okay, is she going to learn a lesson about humanity in this episode? Yes, she is. Okay, what about this? Okay, she learned a lesson. She would learn. This is not a joke. Seven would learn lessons about humanity in episodes that were not about her or included her. She just showed up in the last 5 minutes to be like, I learned something today in straight South Park fashion. So it bothers me because they slam that button constantly and hard, right? Now, what does this have to do with anything? Well, one of my biggest complaints about the Andorian Incident is the fact that Archer is right, capital R. When in fact, what's on... So this is, again, the Death of the Author thing, because if you watch the episode, what's on the screen is a bumbling idiot, and I don't mean that as an insult, it's worth noting. A bumbling idiot stumbles into the situation and is like, well, I'm a moron. Oh, shoot, I should do this. Oh, wait, that led to this. Oh, I didn't think about the consequences of my actions 5 times in a row. Wait a minute, they're spying on their allies? That's not acceptable. And he almost causes an interstellar war. Now, all that's fine, but none of that was intended by the authors. All of that is headcanon. Because the intended thing is that Archer is right, capital R, and that this was the correct path to be taken in this scenario.
Some of the actions he does is stupid too. Like, because I watched it today in preparation, and like he takes a figurine.
Oh God, yeah, you're gonna bring that one up. I know it. I know it.
Well, here's the thing. I guess he takes a figurine and he throws it in the mouth to determine if it goes into. You can see out the eyes and clearly hear. It would not be hard to intuit. where it is or what's going on with that mouth. You don't have to confirm. It's really, really stupidly easy that is what it is. By the way, thank you for supporting the channel, Donovan. But yeah, because he gets I mean, I'm okay with him doing it and getting the hell beat out of him, but that just shows how stupid he is. He's like, hey, this hole where we can clearly hear them like they were right next to us, where we can see out, we can see parts of a room we've been in, so we'd be able to recognize it. And they probably get near it ever so often because it's a big freaking statue that you can see out of, so we can see them. But let's confirm that it's the right room by almost getting they could have rightly killed him for that, because he walked out and he's like, hey, I want to talk to you, and then he just says all kinds of stupid stuff, just wasting their time. They could have killed him, brought his dead body back in, and says, if you waste our time, this is what happens to you.
It is also worth noting, and I just have to continue to complain about the same scene he's complaining about. The dialogue for him is like, hey, I'm ready to talk. And then they take him over, and usually in fiction, when someone says, hey, I'm ready to talk, and obviously they aren't, there's some kind of plan in mind there. But what he does is he just, it's like whoever was writing it just wrote whatever was on the top of their head at that moment when they were writing it. Like, hey,
he just finds it too. You're right. He didn't even pick it up from that room. He found it in the room.
Mm-hmm.
He got lucky that they were letting him walk around.
Mm-hmm.
Usually they set him in a chair, so I don't know why he knew what was going on.
Oh my God,
read the script beforehand too.
Such a moron in that scene. Oh, sorry. It's Donovan, the worst scene in the whole damn thing.
Donovan had a question that you'd know more than me. When was Enterprise affected by the writer's strike, and is not
that I'm aware of?
Okay.
The biggest, if you want to know the biggest reason why season 1 Enterprise sucks, and I can tell you it right now, it's because 18 episodes in a row were written by Brennan Braga. Now you could take that as a dig at his writing skills if you want. I do not mean it as one. Anyone who is forced to shoved against the grind wheel and just writes that much in a row is going to run dry, and it shows. The burnout is obvious because almost every script that's churned out is a clearly first draft script, and that's one of the biggest problems of season 1 of Enterprise, right there.
Ryan, if you're planning to do a rewrite of the episode Dear Doctor, got a good idea. It would be mostly the same. However, they'll give the cure, but somehow lead to complete disaster. Ryan, if you could put that in either of our Discords in the Star Trek rewrite, or you can send it to James at lorereloaded.com. I'm going to be completely honest with you. Depending on where Dear Doctor is, I would suggest resending it, because if you do it now, I'm probably going to forget it. Where is Dear Doctor? Is it even
It's late season 1, I do believe.
There is no way I'm going to remember that.
Yeah, that's going to be weeks from now in real life time.
So I would suggest putting it there and then putting it again. If you see the episodes, usually we do about 2 episodes per, so you can kind of get where we're going to be with that and just send it a little bit closer. I'll write a note, but I promise you I'm not going to see that note when we come upon it. But yeah, definitely send the idea. And if it's, there's no guarantee that we'll put it up there, but if it's good, we'll definitely try to discuss it. But yeah, so there was that stupid, I don't mind him being blundering. Like you said, it would go along with it. We discussed it a little bit. Him exposing the Vulcans, he would have to do it just for spite. There's no good moral reason to do that.
There's no good political reason either.
Yeah, I don't see a moral, like, even if he was opposed to it, you would probably not want to do it at this instance, because that's just, that could end that. I mean, what if they just get mad and decide to go kill everybody there? I mean, I don't know. I think that it is a pretty big mistake the way he did it.
I mean, I agree completely. As a further addendum, though, I've actually been getting flack about this lately because I've been speaking about the positive aspects of spying when it comes to spying on your allies. I suppose that's just an opinion, admittedly, but historical precedents, blah blah blah. We're walking. Relevant point, though. So the biggest thing I wanted to talk about, and we didn't get to talk about this off camera, I want to talk about the fallout of this episode, because there has to be. And there kind of isn't in the actual show. There's one episode which acknowledges, 2 episodes which acknowledge the events of this episode, and that's kind of it. The biggest way that this matters is it connects Archer to Shran, which is awesome, and we need more Shran. Totally with that. But That's it. There's no consequence of a military ally in a situation where everyone hates each other decides to just oust their military ally to
Isn't it?
their enemy.
So here's and it's just dialogue, but don't they say, all right, we're just not going to do military training with you temporarily
So
or
in the
something?
episode I referenced, which acknowledges this event, it says they're going to no longer do joint fleet maneuvers.
But
That's
it's
it.
just a temporary thing too,
Yeah,
right?
temporary removal of joint fleet maneuvers. Whoop-de freaking do, if you'll
Yeah,
forgive me.
they'll come back to it. They leave it open. The way to fix this, I guess, and you could still have repercussions, but if we don't want the repercussions to be too massive, it could be that he's just an idiot. That he
Guys, Archer sucks. Don't hate us for him. This
yeah,
man does
no,
not
Archer.
represent us.
But Archer, because again, it goes back to him being a political choice versus, and this would be a good learning experience for him as well. Something doesn't seem right, and he wants to look into it too because they're not telling him either. Because they're not going to tell that secret because it's Archer, and you don't want Archer knowing anything. Um, and he finds out the same way they do, the same way the Andorians do, but it wasn't his plan. Like he discovers it, and because he
Oh, I
discovers
get
it,
you.
the
So it's a
Andorians.
stumble, and then it's like, oh, the Andorians become aware of it. Whoops. So it's a
Yeah,
mistake rather than malice, which actually I'm a little more okay with.
and then he realizes this kind of teaches him that you can't be so brazen with stuff. You have to sit back and consider the situation, not just what you think is right wholeheartedly.
Hmm.
And then we could still have what we have. I would suggest the consequences be uh, possible. I'd have border conflicts between the Vulcans and the Andorians, which wouldn't much go anywhere. But it would, because of that, they're pulling back. They're not doing fleet operations with Starfleet, and because now they're having to put resources towards these conflicts, they are going to pull back on helping with research as well because they need the manpower to deal with this,
Hmm.
and they don't want Starfleet to get involved specifically. So at this point, uh, they're going to go back with it. They still want to have what they have with Earth because they want to keep that hold. But for the moment, they're just it hurts Earth more than anything else, and it's all Archer's fault.
Hmm. I also like Kira White Noise's idea in my chat. She mentions Archer gets hauled over the coals, especially because Pajem was also feeding, or just the Vulcans, was also feeding some of that Andorian info to EarthGov. So now EarthGov is out some of this info on a potentially hostile enemy.
Cut completely off.
Yep, just
So yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but yeah, that's the only permanent issue. Everything else is temporary because they explain it. But from this point going forward until a later point, Vulcan's like, you know what? We're just not going to give you the intelligence that we have. We obviously can't trust you to use it safely.
hmm
What, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just thought
no,
maybe.
it is a good idea, and it would also. I like the idea of zooming out the camera for a second. I've always said, and we talked about this already, so I'm going to just briefly go back over this, that the inclusion of Earth and EarthGov is like the big key point that it's actually the Vulcan moment for the whole sector, right? Not because Earth humans are special or amazing or whatever, but just because they are another force. They are the third force that comes in. It's more like the 15th force, we get the idea, into a very volatile situation where every power is well established, right?
Mhm.
And so they destabilize everything. And what I want to write into the narrative, especially in the backdrop, is that it almost becomes a bad thing. Like they almost destabilize it for worse. That things almost become much, much worse and much, much more warlike, and things almost go very terribly. Now, obviously, they don't, and we end up getting the Federation as a consequence. But stuff like this with Pajem is a perfect way to emphasize how things are actually kind of getting worse with human inclusion. Oh, bullcrap. Not just, humans are making everything better, right?
Right. I've always kind of looked at the Vulcans, and I think it's a good
Oh,
good way to have them as well. Is well, first off, if you could do this jump right, that would probably
I
help out.
can't. I
They
physically
probably
can't.
could.
It's impossible.
The the
That's interesting.
they they're like it's like a passing of the guard from the British to the Americans, whereas they were like the top dog of the Alpha Quadrant. Obviously, they didn't dominate everything, but they were basically the old guard of Alpha Quadrant affairs, and they're getting towards the end of that era.
Hmm.
And so this is kind of dealing with that. one of the reasons why they want to watch the humans is, they can give these excuses, but they can see the humans' potential to be a dominant or the dominant source
Mm-hmm.
in Alpha Quadrant affairs. And whether, if you want to debate, they want to make sure Alpha Quadrant stays stable, or they don't want to lose their power base, however you want to debate that. That's why they become so ingrained with humanity, because they realize the potential there to change what the Alpha Quadrant is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I've always seen the actual Vulcans in Enterprise, and I think that's a good way to go with it here too.
I don't disagree. I do want to mention something because it came up earlier. Just a really quick anecdote. I myself mentioned that this is several times in my videos that this is actually the Beta Quadrant. Um, but Star Trek parlance constantly refers to just home as the Alpha Quadrant, even though the whole point and on every star map is that Earth is right on the border between Alpha and Beta, so it's like half and half. I just wanted to mention that because everyone, including you and me, all refer to it as just, the Alpha Quadrant. I mean, they even do that constantly in DS9, although it makes more sense there because that is actually on the Alpha Quadrant side of the line, but you get the point. And I know what you're thinking, but Laura, there's no official map. Well, funny thing.
There is now, yeah.
There is now, but I'm actually not going to reference that because I haven't watched Discovery. But what I do have is this, which is the other official thing.
It's one until Disco Era Trek. That was one of the only books that was considered, if not the only book, considered partially canon.
Yep. This is also what, as Star Trek Online based their map off of, which is also what I've always mentally used as my map. So you can't see it, but this is the Beta Quadrant. Earth is right here, right at the juxtaposition. This side over here is Alpha Quadrant. Over here is Klingons. Up here is Romulans. But, all this stuff, Andoria is over here, Vulcan's over here, the Nebula's over here. If you switch over to the Alpha Quadrant, you'll find Cardassia, Bajor, etc. Which again, over here, which again makes sense for why this would be the focus of DS9, because all those events are happening over here.
Well, yeah, you can say that, but 2 of the 3 major powers that were involved in the war came from the Beta Quadrant.
Also true. So I'm not giving that much leeway because, like I said, they just use it as shorthand, and I'm not sure why they decided to just say Alpha Quadrant when they meant home. I guess they just didn't know what else to put there, and it stuck.
By the way, Cedric, thanks for supporting the channel, says, I read an excerpt where T'Pol became a teacher to Spock at the Vulcan Academy. I've read it or heard of it. I have no idea what that's from, and I don't think Spock, I think one of his main things was that he didn't join the Vulcan Academy, so...
I actually don't know off the top of my head if he did or not.
All right. But thanks for the support. Sorry I didn't get to that quicker.
That's my fault.
But yeah. Anyway, I mean, yeah, Alpha Beta Quadrant is whatever.
I just wanted to comment on that because it was coming up in chat. That's the only reason I even brought it up.
Earth is straight in the middle anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Damn right we are. Hoorah! Sorry.
Yeah, how do you like about that? Sector 001 is where Earth is, and that's right in the middle of everything.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me, honestly.
That's what I thought. All right, so is there anything else you would change in it, really?
So we've changed it so Archer accidentally reveals it, and in doing so reveals it with the Andorian. If we're doing that, we have to kind of remove the spite, but I'm okay with that. Because if you remember, of course you just saw it, so viewers at home, if you remember, he literally reaches out to Paul, take scans. He orders her to take scans of the depot, and then orders her to give it to Shran, right? Just cut that part out. Because first of all, it's stupid, but second of all, it's also completely unnecessary, and third of all, it makes him far more complicit in, malice. I don't have a better word for that. Like, it's just spite at that point.
The way I'd write that is, and we'd have to finagle how we got there, but he busts through the door or whatever
with Shran, like in struggle with Shran.
Maybe he's in struggle with Shran, or maybe they're trying to get out, or maybe at this point Shran and them are okay. And he's like, something's weird. We just got to keep looking. And he busts through and he sees it, and Shran would see it, and they'd both realize at the same time. And Shran would look to one of his orderlies and says, begin scanning, get everything you can here. And you just see on Archer's face, he realizes the mistake that he's made at this point. I
do like that. I still think the accident thing works a little bit better, if for no other reason that I'm failing at this jump, but also because it lines up so neatly with our arc for Archer. The fact that he's not bad, he's the wrong choice, right? And Archer becoming a decent captain is one of our intended arcs for him. So him flat out seeing a mistake lead to international consequences is just, oh, you know?
Right.
That's the kind of thing that's good. I would have him reference this many times. I would have this come up in just casual conversation. And he would just be like, well, like they're in the middle of deciding some crisis thing, and he references, do you think you want me to deal with Pajem again? You want me to do that again?
Well, and I think to Paul coming and convincing him to be, I think that would be a good dichotomy. Like where he's like, this is Pajem again, and then she can say, no, you're not the person that happened with Jim, her specifically. One thing I'd write, and this is a future episode though, the one thing I would write is Archer wants to do the right thing. He's like, look, so, the Vulcans come back and they're like, X, Y, and Z, and this is going to happen. And Archer wants to be the martyr. He wants to admit this was a mistake. This is my fault. I should lose. Don't do this to Earth, United Gov, because of what I did. Take away my commission. You can even try me for whatever crime that you want to try me for. He does the right thing, saying it's my fault. Let me fall on the sword. And the political body that put him there is just like, no, we're gonna stand by. You did the right thing, and that we're gonna fight. And it's the Vulcans' problem. It's the Vulcans that are the issue. And then he can have the argument. And at the end of the day, they're gonna be like, look, even if you were wrong, as far as we're concerned, you were right.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of losing power. This could weaken that element of the United Earth. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah. So I think that would be a good addition, but that's in the future episodes.
As a quick aside, having very recently watched First Flight, it's fascinating how much the whole the anti-Vulcan faction thing is just headcanon. Because it is headcanon. But, like, it is so present in that episode. Like, even Forrest becomes promoted as a direct consequence, within 15 months, as a direct consequence of pushing against the Vulcan agenda. Like, think about that.
All right.
Anyway, sorry.
Ryan, in my headcanon, the reason why there was a conflict between Vulcan and Andorians is because the Vulcans fired first on first contact. Yep, that's probably a Discovery reference right there, possibly. And a Star Wars reference.
It's definitely a Star Wars reference. I think we all know Han Solo was always a Vulcan.
That's true. Was there anything else we wanted to add to that, or not really?
Get rid of the rapey dude.
We
just eject that entirely.
Does he do? I forgot.
He doesn't actually do anything. He just implies in a completely unnecessary scene. It's basically done to make him be the bad guy, and for no other reason.
There was once, and it was questionable. He's like, "I'll be glad
having you pause as a prisoner," and he's like doing the glance as he's doing it. It's like, why is that even in this episode?
Yeah, that doesn't.
Just get rid of that. You don't have to get rid of him. Just get rid of that.
Shran was present, wasn't he?
Yeah, Shran was there, which is even worse.
Shran would have beat the living hell out. I don't think.
Actually, no. Hang on, I've changed my mind. Leave it in and have Shran beat the hell out of him.
Yeah, because
as establishing moment for Shran and what kind of person he is.
Yeah, because Shran talks about how the nobility of the Andorian Guard and everything, and he's all about the military and the honor of it and everything. I cannot see.
Oh yeah, no, he would be livid about that. And so let's do that. Let's have him do that and have Shran just clobber the ever living crap out of the guy for it.
I mean, if we were gonna do that, I'd have him probably do something. Didn't you die here last time?
Yes, I did.
I'd have him probably do something like turn around and say, I'm sorry. What did you say or something? And the guy just not realize the warning that was there or what happened. And he's like, oh, I'm just glad that I can take care of another Vulcan or something like that. And he nods a second, and that's he said, that's what I thought you said. He turns around, then he turns back and like punches him or whatever. And just
I would have him beat 10, 11 types of hell. The whole time he's angry. Like, this is not who we are. This is not the type of force that we are. You do not do that. I don't care if they're Vulcans.
Right.
I don't care how green-blooded they are.
The other piece of that, though, is I'd have at the end, it's be like taken back to the ship and sent back. I don't want civilians on a military ship. Like, he's lost. He's
because he's been kicked out.
Yeah, he's like
he's lost his commission.
And then maybe have an and I'd probably also end it. This may be too much in dialogue, but I'd probably also end it say he'll probably need an arbiter to stand trial for his crime. Like even just mentioning that is something that'll get him put in jail.
Hmm.
So that's I do something like that. But yeah, I mean, that is so out of Shran's just to let that happen. That is so out of Shran's character, I
Yeah,
think.
agreed. So yeah, no, I'm with you, and maybe what you could do. I like the way your way of saying it. Just as he's being carted off, or as the Andorians are leaving, just an offside reference of, is he going to be able to afford counsel? And just Shran saying no,
Mhm.
and like that, and that's it. That's the end of that.
Yeah. Uh I don't think Shran would beat him in front of the prisoners, but as soon as they left the room without it, I think he would because of he wants the Vulcans to know that they're better
Hmm.
than they are.
That's what I
Uh,
was thinking
I
too.
mean, again, this is a lot to add in dialogue, so we'd probably have to choose which one we want most, what point we want to emphasize most. But you could also add there, it's like, what do you think? You work on a Vulcan ship? We don't. This is not how we treat people.
Hmm.
We'd probably need to pick one, possibly two of the points we want him to make. But yeah, it would. He would not. He would do it in front of T'Pol specifically because T'Pol's there.
Yeah, no, I
Because
agree completely with that. He could not allow that besmirchment
yeah,
on the honor of himself and the Imperial Guard to go.
yeah, and the Vulcans would have to see that would not be allowed. That's not something he'd be able to do in private. You could put up with a lot, but inferred rape, no, we're not gonna allow that at any point. And then they all turn into unicorns and they fly away holding hands that they unicorns have.
Okay, this is a random question here, and I swear it's relevant. Do we want to acknowledge the Ferengi this early in the show?
If it's done in a good way, but I'm not sure. The
So,
Ferengi are a ways away. The Ferengi never made sense in Enterprise. Ferengi are on the map that you showed are closer to Bajor than they are Earth. So that is a
oh yeah,
long.
they're way out of their way. They're so far away from home. It's silly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so the reason I ask that though is if the Ferengi are present, if we just eject the whole they're an unknown race we know nothing about thing from TNG, and really all you'd have to do is eject that. We could add a line so you say, what do you think this is, a Vulcan ship? You could just change it to the word Ferengi.
Right.
What do you think this
Yeah.
is, a Ferengi
I,
ship?
I don't mind that. If I was writing it, I would probably have their influence known. That's how well they've moved from as a capitalist, whatever. And we can make it look bad if we want to. But the way they work, they've been because they created. You said this in yours. They basically created the market, right?
Mm-hmm.
They created the capitalist form of trade that exists, and this could be. We could have tinges of that, like it's reaching this far at this point.
Mm-hmm.
If we had a Ferengi, it would have to be explained why they're so far away.
Yeah.
But at the very minimum, they could be, what do you think this is a Ferengi ship? And then when we have inferences, we could talk about the Ferengi Trade Commission or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
like the introduction of Gold Press. We could bring Gold Press Latinum in. Like, what the hell is this? Oh, it's this new trade thing. I don't think it's this new monetary thing. I don't think it's gonna catch on or anything. It's done by the Ferengi.
The
Uh,
Who? Oh, it's God, I don't
yeah,
even know. They're yahoos. Don't mind them.
yeah, they're saying that this should be worth something. It's never stick with the Andorian bill. That's gonna the or the what is it, the Bajoran Lintra or
I
whatever.
don't remember the Bajoran one off the top of my head. And the Klingon one, which is actually referenced in Enterprise, which I can't remember the name of either.
Yeah, it's just yeah. But anyway,
Anyways, yeah, so that's the only reason I mentioned that is if we make the Ferengi a known existence rather than totally unknown, then we could have something. Now, Ben Wilmot also mentions the Orion Syndicate, which actually are in Enterprise Season 4.
right.
Barely. But so we could use them as well. What do you think this is, an Orion ship? Would
Right.
also be another way to do that.
We could create the Ferengi Orion Syndicate.
That's true. I'm liking it.
Discovery tie-ins. We could call it
The Emerald
no, not Emerald.
necklace.
The Diamond.
Oh, the
Yeah,
diamond chain. There you go. Perfect. The diamond chain. Because it cuts your throat off whenever you join them. I don't know.
But it's beautiful.
Real quick, though, we are going to have to, at some point, decide certain things like that. Like the Ferengi question. But we don't have to right now.
Wow.
Listen, we have to exterminate all the... No, I'm serious, though, because we have to decide what we're doing with the Ferengi at some point. That is something that's going to have to come up because TNG and DS9, right?
Right.
So we'll get there at some point. We'll get there. But not today. I think we're done today.
All right, guys. Yeah, I don't think Shran would beat him in front. Oh, did we already say that?
Yeah, we already answered that. You already answered that.
Yeah, but did he say that before, or did people just stop commenting?
No, he's nobody's been commenting in your chat. That's what it is.
What's up with that?
I don't know. Your guys just you can talk to us. It's okay.
Slow.
We're right here.
Slow. Right. Thanks so much for supporting it, guys. Thanks for being here. This is always fun. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. We do this generally every Sunday at 5. Wow, we're keeping it within the 2 hours. Usually it's like
just barely, but we're making it. Yeah.
Usually it's like midnight by the time we get done. So yeah, we'll catch you lovely, wonderful peeps on the next one. And you're awesome, 14K Leon. You're awesome.
It is true.
What? We're done.
And on my end here, obviously, this will be uploaded. I've already uploaded today. I uploaded the Undiscovered Country one because those go live several weeks after we're done with them. And no promises on when exactly I'm going to have that Enterprise or the video done. I was working on some audio, and then someone called me in the middle of recording. Literally in the middle of recording. It was funny. I have no idea when I'm going to finish that. That it is a gargantuanly huge time consumption. I'm still working on some theater work, but be looking forward to that. And at some point in the future, that may be a thing. Tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as per usual, I will be streaming Heroes of Might and Magic 5, and we might actually finish that game this week, so that'll be neat. Otherwise, I will see you guys later.